and welcome back to Japan for our World Tour Wednesdays, where we're checking out Sweet John with Missing You. And hey, you know how this works by now if you've been here before, which is basically if you want to see the reaction, I've just done it. Pause this video, click the link in the description below where you can watch the reaction. It'll open a separate little YouTube player and you can hear the song with me if you haven't heard it before, or if you just want to see my face moving in response to the music. Anyway, I'm really glad to be back with World Tour Wednesday in this new format. So here is our first review, and I'm really glad to say it is of what I believe is a Taiwanese artist, and that's about all I know of them, and I really enjoyed this. So, why did I enjoy this? Well, if you've just watched the reaction, which I certainly hope you have, then you'll kind of know that a lot of what I picked up on that first listen was this: there was a sort of multitude of sounds happening at the same time, and they were really interestingly balanced with each other. Everything was kind of light, but everything was working in a sort of synchronicity, and yet at the same time with all the layers being quite independent. I mean, the song starts off with something happening in a very it's sort of like a 3/4 style rhythm, and then you got the next bit comes in, which is more of a 4/4 style rhythm. Basically, you've got two time signatures happening over the top of each other, near enough, and it provides this really interesting layered sound where everything's happening kind of on the same rhythm and yet also happening very independent of each other. And then extra sounds come in. I mean, the drum beat was nice and solid and stable, but what you have, as was the bass line instantly, but I'll talk about that more in a minute, but you had the guitars doing something quite different from the little electric organ and all kinds of electric piano, I think it was actually. However, you had all of these little sounds coming in and happening at the same time, and it was just a very like a very sort of thick sounding song. Now what was interesting is, like I said, all of those sounds, should I say, were actually quite delicate at the same time. You got a real feeling that you could feel the musicianship. As I was saying with the acoustic guitar, as it started to become more audible towards the end and the rest of the sound started to back down, you could hear like little hand slaps on the strings and everything. It was really clear. But when you put them all together, they meshed into this nice sort of smooth, creamy arrangement. I did really think that it was kind of hard to pick any one thing that stood out, particularly in the song, because of the fact it was so well balanced. And I really had a lot of love for that bass line as well, because the bass line, especially in the chorus, does this lovely little sort of semi-descending thing. You guys know I've got a kind of weird soft spot for descending bass lines. They can be used really nicely in a sort of a context like this. But it was doing that with like little fills and runs in the bass line as well. Just everything felt like there was a delicacy to it, a sort of effortless delicacy to how it was played, and that nothing felt like it was being show-offy or sort of overly jazzy, overly virtuoso. So even when the solo comes around, the solo is very lightly played. It's just kind of like a musical interlude, you know, just things thicken up a little bit as the vocals go away. The vocals themselves they had that sort of sleepy, dreamy quality that can sometimes be really nice if it's done in the right type of music, and here worked well, but I especially loved how well their voices worked together and how they layered them. You know, a little bit of harmony, a little bit of timing difference. Again, it was a similar thing to how all the instruments were working together. They picked sounds that worked alongside each other, but then didn't just sort of slap them on top of each other. They gave just a little bit of difference, a little bit of nuance, so that every single sound in this song feels like it's doing its own thing. And that might seem like a really obvious statement to make, but obviously what you could consider is in a lot of music, often you'll have two instruments that are kind of doing the same thing. In a lot of rock music, for example, not all of it, I'm glad to say, certainly not in a lot of Japanese rock music, but in most rock music, you tend to find that the guitar and the rhythm guitar and the bassist are basically playing the same thing a lot of the time. And, you know, little things like that often come up. Sometimes you'll have pieces of music where like it's usually the bass and something else are playing exactly the same thing. So like a bass and maybe a piano. It's very often the case when that comes up. It's not always a bad thing, but it's nice and interesting if you can do something that differs. And this was what I liked about it, like I say, is that every instrument seemed to have been completely separately written, but put together in a way that worked. Reminds you, actually, thinking of a Japanese thing, it reminds me again of stuff like Wagaki Band and Alia, who are very different bands, much louder bands in a lot of ways, but have, again, quite nuanced sounds and use quite a lot of different instruments, similar to what you got the feeling of here. So, yeah, to me, this was just, and like I say, I get the feeling they're a quintet, from what I can see, a four-piece band. That's quartet. quartet, a 4-piece band. That's what I could gather from looking at it. However, they sounded much bigger. There might have been some layering in the recording, don't get me wrong. However, the sound of the song sounded like it was a much bigger band, and that's usually a sign of quality, good writing, good arrangement as well. Yeah, I really liked it. I'd be interested to see, as always, we say World Tour Wednesdays, we're happy to come back to artists if people are interested and want to hear me give them opinions on more, especially with the new format. We're able to do that a bit easier in future weeks. If I do come back to this artist, which I think I'd be very interested to do, I'd like to hear, as I always say, after that first listen, a song that provides some variations. Okay, we've got an idea of them doing something jazzy and smooth. Can they do something which shows a real variation? Because they certainly seem to have access to a lot of sounds, and usually having 2 people who can sing and a keyboard player, keyboards can be whatever you want them to be, you can usually be quite interesting. So I'd be really fascinated to hear what kind of nuance or perhaps variation is in this band waiting to come out. So anyway, for now, thank you so much for making it through to the end of this video. Now, what I need to do is I need to get you to comment and tell me what you think. You can like and subscribe as well if you want. But this channel is all about the subjective opinions of music. I give my opinion as someone who's worked with music my entire adult life. But everyone's opinions is just as valid as everyone else's. So let me know what you think, whether you're new to this song or not, whether you're new to this artist or not. Back it up. Tell me why you think what you think so we can get a little bit of interesting conversation going. And as always, there's more conversation going, especially for Japanese music fans, on our various social medias linked in the description below. But we talk about music from all over the world, not just Japanese music, although that is the main focus of this channel for most of the other days of the week. Certainly though, if you want to stick around and give more opinions for future World Tour Wednesdays amongst anything else, that's a great place to be. And a big thank you to you for making it through to the end of this video, and everyone who's on our Patreon, also links in the description below. Gracias. As always, you keep this channel going. You are the lifeblood that makes this actually possible for me to do. So thank you to you as the viewer. Thank you to the Patreons. Thank you to everyone. And until I see you hopefully very soon in Japan for the next one of these videos, for now, ciao, ciao.